When I attended the February Congress of Future Medical Leaders meeting, I wanted to take the experiences and successes of the speakers at the Congress and take those lessons and bring those into my own life. The first lesson I took from the Congress was from Brittany Wenger and her presentation about how she took her area of expertise in computer science and her passion to help her friend with breast cancer and used that connection to create a great innovation in the medical field. She showed me that you don't have to be centralized around medicine. You can use your expertise and passion in other fields to create innovations in the field of medicine. The other lesson I took away from the Congress came from Dr. Craig Venter. He talked about how bringing together data from both patients and researchers and finding new ways to collect data would bring forth a new generation of innovation in the field of medicine. I found this to be a very insightful outlook on the future of medicine. Based upon the lessons I learned at the Congress, I decided that I wanted to use my passion and knowledge in engineering and programming to develop a new medical technology that would collect data for researchers and create further outlets for research. So when I began looking at problems to research, I didn't want to find a problem that only affects a certain group of people. I wanted to find a problem that affects everyone. And I came across this interesting article done by the CDC, and it talks about prescription noncompliance, which is when the patient either forgets to take their prescriptions or they don't follow the doctor's orders, and this causes major problems. In the US alone, it kills up to 125,000 people per year and costs over $289 billion. And for example, a person with HIV, if they forget to take their medication or they don't follow their doctor's orders, the virus is able to mutate and can become resistant to their prescriptions, and the prescriptions won't work anymore. So they have to go and get new prescriptions that are generally more expensive and they aren't as effective, and it's just a great big hassle for everybody. As I dove deeper into the problems surrounding prescription noncompliance, I noticed that we have all kinds of quantitative data collection methods around us, but we have nothing to measure compliance. Compliance is based solely upon the word of the patient when they tell their physician whether or not they're taking their medications. But the problem is, research shows that about 40% of the time, patients lie to their doctor. So it's not a very valid source of information to measure compliance. Another problem surrounding prescriptions can best be summed up by an experiment done by a New York Times medical writer. She gave a group of medical students each 2 boxes of Tic Tacs, and they were told to treat them as medications with specific prescriptions. And throughout the week, they were supposed to take them as they would any other medication. But the problems arose when they returned 1 week later, and the writer noticed that none of the students were able to properly follow the medications perfectly, showing that there needs to be some type of reminder method to keep patients on track with their medications. Based upon all the problems I've found throughout my research regarding prescription noncompliance, I therefore inferred that if I can create an accurate tracking device to record when patients are taking their prescriptions, then better decisions can be made by the physician regarding the patient's treatment. I decided that the best solution for these problems would be a redesign of the simple pill bottle. While other medical technology has evolved throughout the years, the pill bottle has remained relatively the same. I thought about various aspects that would benefit the new pill bottle for both the patient and the physician, such as reminders for patients to take their medications. Pill dispensers exist currently to remind the patient when to take their medication, but they're not designed for normal citizens. They're mainly designed for senior citizens. They're not portable, and they're not very practical either. I thought it would be important to record when the dose is taken so that the physician has information regarding future treatment decisions. And I also thought it would be important to limit the number of pills dispensed to reduce the risk of overdose, saving more lives. I used my engineering and programming background to take these ideas and develop them into a single streamlined design.
So here we have the CAD files for the various components of my smart bottle design. Here's an overall view of the entire model. It's comprised of 4 pieces, and here's a view of the entire model showing the internal edges and curves to show the complexity of the design. And now we'll go into each of the individual parts to explain their design and functions. Here we have the base of the smart pill bottle. It acts very similar in function to a regular pill container. Basically what this part does is it contains the pills and holds them and organizes them. The 2 dividers divide the pills into 4 quadrants, making sure that the pills are orderly and organized so they can be dispensed properly without jamming the mechanism. This component is the external mechanism. It wraps around the pill container. It contains the electronic and motorized components and also connects the lower pill container to the upper dispensary part that will hold the pill for the next dose. Here's the rotational door mechanism. It is connected to a servo motor, which opens and closes when it is time to dispense the pills. The purpose of this mechanism is it is able to open to hold the next pill, it is able to close to hold the pill for safekeeping until the next dose time, and when it is time to take the dose, it can open, allowing for the patient to receive their medications. The final component here is the upper component, which basically caps off and seals the spinning door mechanism and connects it to the lower base mechanism, bringing the whole smart bottle together. So now that we have evaluated each of the individual components of the smart bottle, we can see how the entire mechanism works together. The pill containment part holds the pills until it is time to load for a dose. When it is time to load for a dose, the door on the mechanism opens to the loading position and the patient turns the whole bottle upside down until a pill falls into the door area. Then the mechanism spins, locking the pill off from the pill containment area and the access area for the patient. When it is time to take a dose, the patient presses the button, the door spins again, and the patient has access to their medications. The entire process repeats to load for the next pill.
Here's the current prototype design for the electronic circuitry for the new pill bottle. It is contingent upon the final design of the bottle as well as size constraints, but size shouldn't be an issue because all these components can be shrunk down into a smaller circuit board. 99% of the work done on the circuit is done by this Arduino microcontroller, which acts as the computer or the brain for the circuit by reading inputs from other components, such as this RTC clock and this momentary switch, and sending outputs to other components, such as this servo motor and this speaker. It interacts with the patient and with the programming, and it brings together the electronic world with the mechanical components with the patient's interactions. Here we have the RTC breakout board, which acts as the clock for the circuit. This IC or integrated circuit chip right here reads electronic impulses sent to and from this crystal right here, and based upon how long it takes for the electronic impulses to go to and from that crystal, it creates an accurate measurement of time, which is then set over these two orange I2C cables, which are sent to the Arduino microcontroller, telling the Arduino what time it is and when the patient is taking their dose. The other input in the circuit is this momentary switch, which the patient uses when they are ready to take their dose. They push the button, telling the Arduino it is time to begin the dosing cycle. The two outputs in the circuit are the servo motor and the speaker right here. When it is time for the patient to take their dose, the Arduino sends a signal over these two wires right here to the speaker and sends a square wave out, sounding off an alarm, telling the patient they are needing to take their dose. The other output in the circuit is the servo motor, which controls the door, opening or limiting access to the pills. The Arduino sends PWM or pulse width modulation signals to the servo over these three wires, turning and opening and closing the door. Okay, so here's what will happen when the Arduino is running the code for the smart pill bottle. The RTC clock right here will begin counting up until it is time for the patient to take their dose. When it notifies the Arduino that it is time for the patient to take their dose, the alarm down here will sound off, notifying the patient. The patient will then push this momentary switch right here, which will send the program, causing this servo motor to turn, opening the pill bottle, allowing the patient to take their pills. The patient will then press the pill bottle button again. The servo will switch to the loading position. The patient will tip the bottle upside down, and then the patient will press the button again, turning the mechanism, locking the pill for the next dose. So now the program is running currently on the Arduino. The RTC clock right here is counting up until it is time to take the dose, constantly notifying the Arduino what time it is, and when the Arduino discovers that it is time for the patient to take their dose, this alarm will sound, just like that. So I'm notified to take my dose. So as the patient, I will push this button, signaling I'm ready to take my dose. I push this button, and the servo motor will open to the open position. I am able to tip the pill bottle upside down to receive my medications. Once I am ready, I will push the button, and it will move to the loading position where I can tip the entire bottle upside down, To load the next medication, I can press the button, and the entire mechanism moves to the closed position. The time I have taken my dose is recorded in the hard drive on the Arduino, and the RTC clock begins to count up until the next dose needs to be taken.
So now we've been running the pill bottle, and now we are able to extract the data. So we have connected the pill bottle electronics by a USB cable to establish a serial connection with our computer. And by using the data stored on the pill bottle, we are able to, over a serial connection, extract the times when the doses were taken. So we can see here that we had a dose taken at 2:16 p.m. on May 16th, 2014, a dose taken at 2:23 p.m. on May 16th, and we had a third dose taken on May 16th at 2:30 p.m. So we can see that the patient took 3 doses 7 minutes apart. So this proves that the electronics are working and the programming is viable in storing and holding the data of when the doses are taken.
To get my prototype ready for the everyday patient, I would follow the typical design cycle for developing a product. I would first take my CAD files and develop a physical prototype in which I could integrate the electronics and mechanical components together and add the programming code. I would continue this cycle until I believe I have an optimized design ready for testing. Once I have a finalized design, I would begin clinical testing to determine the efficiency of my new pill bottle. I would perform an experiment with a group of patients to determine how efficient my new pill bottle is. The patients would have prescriptions from a doctor, and I would give them the control baseline first, where they would have a normal pill bottle and they would go throughout a week adhering as best as they can to their prescription orders. After the week is over, I would take the data from when they took their prescriptions and I would introduce the variable. Each of the patients would receive my new smart bottle, and they would follow the exact same regimen, except they would use the new smart bottle to adhere to their prescriptions. After the week is over, I would take the data and feedback from both the patients and the physicians to use all that information and bring it together to streamline and finalize the total design. Just like any other new technology, the smart pill bottle would have a few problems to overcome before it could reach every patient. The first problem I could see would be the cost. Obviously, the smart pill bottle would cost a bit more than a regular pill bottle due to the introduction of electronic components and microcontrollers. However, over time, the price would decline due to new technologies, and by producing more and more smart pill bottles, production costs would decrease. Also, I believe that the hundreds of thousands of lives saved and the billions of dollars not spent on prescription non-compliance would greatly offset the cost increase. Another problem I could see would be the new size of the pill bottle. The electronic components might take up a bit more space than a regular pill bottle, making it a bit more of a hindrance to use than a normal pill bottle. However, the size would decrease over time due to advances in foldable circuitry and smaller batteries, making it not much of a problem for the patient. The final problem I could see would be the battery life. If the battery runs out, then the patient might not be able to use the pill bottle to get their medication. But there are new technologies such as kinetic regeneration, or we could use solar power to recharge the battery, allowing the patient to use the pill bottle whenever or wherever they want to use it. If we are able to overcome the problems associated with the development of a smart pill bottle and we are able to implement it into modern medicine, the benefits and implications would be immense. One of the biggest benefits of this new technology I can foresee would be no more guessing about the effectiveness of patient treatments. For example, let's take a patient who has pneumonia. When the patient comes to the physician's office and needs medication, the doctor generally has to guess about what strain of pneumonia the patient has and what medication will be most effective in combating the disease. However, if the patient comes back a week or more later and is still sick with the disease, there's generally 2 reasons for why the patient is still sick. The first reason is that the wrong medication was chosen when the doctor diagnosed the disease and it wasn't effective in killing off the bacteria. The other reason could be that the patient wasn't taking their medication properly and it wasn't able to kill off all the disease, allowing it to multiply. However, if the patient had a smart pill bottle, the physician would no longer have to guess whether or not the patient was taking their medication. The physician would just have to simply extract the data stored on the smart pill bottle to determine when the patient took their medications and to determine if their compliance with their medications was a factor in the reoccurring disease. Another benefit of the new smart bottle would be greater control over high-risk medications such as narcotics. Narcotics such as Oxycontin, Percocet, and Vicodin cause up to 15,000 deaths per year in abuse and overdosages. However, the smart bottle would lower the risk of overdosage and medication abuse due to restricting the access to the medication only when the doctor has prescribed for the medications to be taken. And other technologies such as a fingerprint scanner could be implemented for higher security, ensuring that only the prescribed patient is able to take their medications and limiting access to those the medication is not prescribed for. Another application of the data collected by the smart bottle could be used by health insurance companies when calculating health insurance premiums. The data could be used to determine the risk of a patient when they're taking their medications, and by gauging their compliance ratings, health insurance companies could use this data to create another metric when evaluating health insurance premiums. Criminal investigators could also use the data stored on a smart bottle when trying to determine the cause of death in an investigation. Data stored on the smart bottle could be a valuable source of information when trying to determine whether medication abuse was a cause of the person's death. Finally, researchers can use the data collected by smart bottles to determine further outlets for research. By using the data collected by the smart bottles and gathering information from physicians, researchers can determine what medications are still effective at combating diseases and what diseases need new medications to control them. These are just a few of the benefits and applications of the smart bottle, and over time, more implications will become clear to researchers, patients, and physicians. In conclusion, the smart bottle is a fairly simple solution to solving the widespread problem of prescription noncompliance. Its implication into medicine would have instant benefits for both the physician and the patients, and most importantly, the smart bottle would save billions of dollars and save hundreds of thousands of lives.